Hello and welcome to this episode of the Star Wars Generations podcast. Friends, we've got a new Star Wars product coming up real soon. Star Wars Visions presents The Ninth Jedi. And I'm here to talk about it with Aaron. Alex has not able to join us, but has sent in some thoughts that we're going to talk about. Basically, we're just helping to get you ready. This is a primer to give you everything you need to know for this new TV show when it comes out. It's going to be 8 episodes. Originally, we thought it was going to be releasing week to week. This is going to be releasing all at once. We're gonna do coverage on it. We're probably gonna do coverage on the first episode the night it drops, then do something about the whole show a week later. But today we just want to talk about everything that's going into it. And so I'm joined, of course, by Aaron. Aaron, how are we doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Chill morning. How about you?
I'm good. And so this is about the Ninth Jedi. And for those who don't remember, or if you haven't seen Star Wars Visions, I do highly recommend it. It's basically an anthology show of a number of individual little stories that are all done by, it's all animated. And originally it was all in the anime style. I think now they've started branching out into a number of other cultures and their animation styles. But it's basically a bunch of these different kind of vignettes that don't fall necessarily within our timeline, or at least if they do, not in ways that super matter. And the Ninth Jedi especially is one that I've read one description that says that it's set 1,000 years in the future. That may be possible. I know someone else who's described all of these shows as this is what kids in the Star Wars universe watch on Saturday morning cartoons. So like these are fictional stories told within that universe. Doesn't really matter. What we know is that there was this episode of Visions, season 1, called The Ninth Jedi. There was a sequel to that, The Ninth Jedi, Child of Hope, in the 3rd season, and now we're getting basically 8 full-length episodes based on that story. Aaron, how are we feeling about this?
I'm excited. I was pretty unsure about Visions going into it just because I'm not a big fan of anime. That being said, not that I've given it a fair chance. I'm sure anime is wonderful. I just get intimidated by how many episodes are in most anime series that are really popular.
You don't want to start watching One Piece and go back and watch 1,200 episodes of...
It's a little intimidating, I gotta say. But I loved that this kind of was able to introduce me to like the style of filming and the style of animation, as well as how like the stories play out. And I loved that, like, I think I've heard these stories from Visions described as kind of like non-canon events.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, whether you want to translate that as like cartoons and storybooks that like kids read in the Star Wars universe, or just like, I don't know, kind of like Marvel's What If.
Yeah.
Just, you know, fun concepts on the side that don't play into the bigger story, but do have really interesting like plot points and things that are brought up that wouldn't work in the bigger Star Wars universe.
Right. Yeah.
And go ahead.
I think framing as what if is a really good way to think about it. And it's certainly possible that in this larger show, they are going to more ground it in a way. Like they might start by saying this takes place 1,000 years after the Battle of Yavin, or 1,000 years beforehand. We don't really know.
Yeah.
But I think that framing of just think of this as a story in Star Wars, instead of having to relate it to everything else, not only is good for this, but it's actually just kind of a good way of thinking about Star Wars, because I do think a lot of times it's hard to watch new things because we're constantly thinking about, okay, well, where does this fit in? And if this is happening during this period, so what is this character doing and stuff like that? And I think that actually made it, that was probably part of why I didn't love Visions as much as I've come to the first time I watched it. And part of it I'll say is I'm just not really I'm not an anime person. I don't experience things visually the way a lot of people do. And so the visual storytelling motif is harder for me to get into. But I remember that the first chapter, I believe, the duel, might have been the last, it was one of them. And visually it is just so striking. You know, it's primarily black and white. It's very much kind of calling back to samurai movies of the 50s, which are often black and white, but where the lightsaber effects and the other like laser effects are in color. Wonderfully done. And it was a battle of a Sith against other Siths. And I spent the whole time I was watching it being like, so wait, is this before Darth Bane? Is this after Darth Bane? Like, I was trying to figure it out, and I didn't really enjoy it. And I think being able to let go of that, and I think by the time I kind of went back to watch The Ninth Jedi, because I knew this was coming up, I could just enjoy the episodes. Being able to think of it is like, I don't know how this relates to the Skywalkers, and I don't care. It's just
Yeah.
a kind of story where the Jedi and the Sith are still these like timeless things, and the Force is a timeless thing, and lightsabers are a timeless thing, and we're gonna tell a fun story, and that's okay.
Yeah. I like how we're getting some things that are outside of like the established canon, but I know that's really hard for a lot of fans.
Yeah.
Like for me, one thing that helps a lot with certain media, like for example, the Han Solo movie, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't play out as the best prequel to Han Solo, but it is a great space cowboy like
Yeah.
bandit movie, like heist movie. It is a great movie. It's fun. It's fun to watch. The characters are pretty compelling. It just doesn't fit in well as a prequel to Han Solo.
Yeah.
And similarly, I most recently watched Jurassic World Rebirth,
Mhm.
and some of the concepts there kind of backtrack what happened in the Jurassic World trilogy. And it's like, okay, well, that's frustrating, but it's a really good movie outside of it. But the movie got a lot of hate for what it did to the overall story.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what some people struggled with Visions at first. And I
Mhm.
hope that just the discussion we're having right now about like looking at it outside of the normal canon, outside of like what we would expect, or, you know,
Yeah.
not killing yourself over where does this fit in? How does this relate? Like it gives you the opportunity to just enjoy a new piece of media in a setting that you
Mhm.
love without having to tie it back to everything. So I hope that people can kind of like step back and enjoy it as a new thing without getting caught in the weeds of like, how does this tie in? This ruins this
Yeah.
thing or this and that and blah, blah, blah.
And I mean, and that's always been a part of storytelling, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and with adaptations, I get, you know, like I mean, here's an example where I think there's more reason to be upset by it, but I think it's the same kind of thinking. There's a movie from my childhood. I think it's called First Night. I don't remember exactly. It stars Sean Connery and Richard Gere, and I think Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. I'm not positive on that, but it's basically about this knight who goes to work for this king and falls in love with the queen, the king's wife, and the love triangle and how that plays out and all the problems with it. And if you think about it as that kind of story, I think it is a fantastic movie. Now, the king is named Arthur, and the knight is named Lancelot, and the woman is named Guinevere. And if you know anything about Arthurian legend, this movie will make you very angry because the movie doesn't know anything about Arthurian legend.
Yeah.
And so the first time, the same way, like I thought Mad Max Fury Road is an awful sequel to the Mad Max movies, which I love. They were great movies. Fury Road does not make sense in light of those movies, but is also just a fucking badass movie
Yeah.
that is awesome on its own. And yeah, and I think, you know, Ninth Jedi to me is not those things because I don't think it's claiming to be. I think, as
Mhm.
you said, Visions has always sort of been in this what if kind of idea. But with all that, for those people who haven't seen it, and I hope you do hit pause and go watch it, but even if you haven't, or just you don't have time to rewatch it, you want to kind of be reminded, tell us about the Ninth Jedi. What is the story of this character?
So this is like in a series where the Jedi have been lost and the lightsabers have been lost as well. The art of lightsaber making is lost.
Right.
And I believe kyber crystals are no longer really a thing. Like the kyber crystals that this Jedi maker uses, Kara is our main character, and her father is a lightsaber maker, not a Jedi maker. But her father is a lightsaber maker, and he uses synthetic kyber crystals
Right.
that will adjust to the Force user's powers and kind of like preferences.
Right.
Which I love to see unique abilities within a lightsaber. I hope we get some stuff similar to the Acolyte where maybe we see like, I think we already may have seen Kara use it as like a saber whip or
Yeah.
just some other type of thing, which I think is just the coolest. And we see in the first episode, you know, Kara's father is attacked by Jedi hunters. He gives her the lightsabers, is like, go, these Jedi have been summoned to the mountains. Go meet them, give them their sabers. And so she has this adventure up the mountains, meets up with this Jedi, or these Jedis who are trying to meet up with some Monclave, I think they called him. Someone who called them all
Margrave.
together. Margrave,
Yeah.
thank you. And then basically we find out many of the Jedi are actually Sith who have tracked down the Jedi that were called, killed them, and taken their place. So when Kara gives out the lightsabers, most of them ignite red.
Yeah. And that's part of the idea of this is that, as you said, the lightsaber crystals will adjust to the energy and the force, the way the force moves with a person. And there's two great storytelling beats with that. One is that for Kara, when she first uses it, it's this like pale, very translucent, like it's almost like a green outline around something.
Mhm.
But as the story goes on and as her confidence in her force powers grows, it becomes more and more of just a full-on green lightsaber, which it is by the time of the final battle. And then the other is, and again, I hope I'm not spoiling this, and hit pause, go watch it. But for everyone else, you want to be reminded, like it's just this great moment when all the Jedi, all these people who are claiming to be like they want to be Jedi, one of the conceits is that kind of they can't be Jedi in part because they don't have lightsabers, and I think that's something we're going to really explore.
Mhm.
How needed is that? But they all ignite their lightsabers, and 5 of them turn red, and it's just this incredible moment of realizing, oh no, these are actually baddies,
Yeah.
and it's just such a great reveal. And I imagine we're going to keep seeing that. And there's someone who's kind of in the middle, who's purple, who uses purple, and I thought
Mhm.
that was another fun thing. And I think this is we're gonna have so much to explore about how these lightsabers can be a plot device, both to tell us the audience, but also to tell other characters. Like it's basically the best mood ring you've ever seen.
Yeah, really. That's a fun way to put it, truly.
Hmm.
And one thing I thought was interesting, or I kind of liked, and I'm interested to see if this plays forward throughout the show, is how like they seem to be connected to the ones around them. Because one of the people whose sabers initially lit red, like you said, it kind of hued to purple. And
Uh-huh.
then at the end of the battle, they're like, I'm so sorry, I'm actually a Jedi. I was caught up in the darkness of the others.
Right.
And so I'm curious to see like what does the force look like in groups of people in this universe? Is it because like you wouldn't expect someone to make a transition that quickly between Jedi kind of falling towards the dark, kind of teetering back to the light. So I'm interested if like I mean, sabers are different, kyber crystals are different. I wonder
Uh-huh.
if the way the force moves in groups is going to be different, or if we'll see maybe more Sith turned Jedi or another Jedi
Yeah.
falling to the dark just based on like who's around them. I thought
Well,
that was kind of interesting.
and let me read the opening crawl from the first episode, because we love opening crawls. It's been part of Star Wars since
Mhm.
the beginning, but it really helps set the idea of what this universe is and just how much darkness there is. It says, many generations have passed since the light of the Jedi protected the galaxy. Since then, an era of war has arisen. So this is why a lot of people think of this as being far in the future.
Mhm.
But Margrave Juro, ruler of the planet High Islan, has a plan. He has recently begun mining for rare kyber crystals with his territory. Using these crystals, which I think, yeah, he synthesizes in some way, he seeks to restore the Jedi, but maybe it is just that he finds them. But anyway, using these crystals, he seeks to restore the Jedi by reforging their ancient weapons, lightsabers, which have been lost to the galaxy. So again, it's kind of this idea of that the lightsabers will be part of what allows the Jedi to reform.
Mhm.
However, ancient dark forces conspire to subjugate the galaxy. They hatch their own sinister plan to hunt all suspected Jedi and bring forth a new era of Sith rule. So yeah, this is a lawless time, much more
Mhm.
so than even for Han. This is a real time of darkness, of constant warfare, of where no one trusts each other. Everyone is deeply distrustful, which is a part of why this happens. Is that the Margrave is the person who is like really kind of he's trying to rebuild the Jedi, and he was the one working with this Kara's father, the lightsaber smith, and he puts together this gathering of like would-be Jedi, and he doesn't trust some of them. And
Mhm.
so he creates the situation knowing that the lightsabers will tell him who's Sith and who's not. And and you can see that that's probably, for this person who somewhat falls but is able to pull back. That's part of it. This is a time of just so much deep suspicion and paranoia and no one trusting each other, and it's hard for the good and the light to survive in a world like that.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. It's interesting. Like I didn't quite thread the idea of galactical distrust to what Juro did. But yeah, you're completely right. He suspected that not everyone who would come to this meeting would be pure of heart or even the people that were initially called. So he kind of like set up a trap. He hid inside a droid
Mm-hmm.
and was like, okay, y'all turn on your lightsabers. Let's see.
Yeah, yeah, without telling them what it was about to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of a brilliant reveal in that regard. And so tell us about this character of Kara.
Yeah, well, she's a young girl. I mean, I'd assume somewhere between 10 and 13. I'm not
Mhm.
great with children's ages, but that seems about right for her.
That kind of standard anime, like just on the edge of puberty, but still prepubescent, child hero.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I feel like I didn't get too much about her in the first episode. I mean, other than like, of course, important lore, backstory, what's going on
Uh-huh.
with her dad. We see her build her confidence. Like, that's all lovely. But I thought the follow up episode in season 3, we get to see more of her character,
Right.
where she finds herself on this ship and there's a small droid who needs her help. And she kind of just like puts her own problems aside to help him out, finds out that, whatever help he needed, it's 100 years too late.
Mhm.
And in the end, the droid makes a sacrifice to save her and distract a bunch of Jedi hunters. And it's just all very sweet. And
Yeah.
that episode made me cry.
Yeah, I was watching that episode last night with my boyfriend, and I've been introducing him to Star Wars. He'd not really grown up with it, and at one point, as we're watching the episode, we were in different homes, but like watching online together, and he texts me, "Is Star Wars allowed to have happy endings?" And we agreed. Like, there's a lot of bittersweet. There's a lot
Yeah.
of someone making the sacrifice, and this felt like a really important episode for Kara, and her full name is La Kara, but
Mhm.
everyone calls her Kara. And she clearly is the sort of person who can see the good in everyone.
Yes.
And I think, especially that we know this is a galaxy where, for a lot of people, the question are droids sentient beings worthy of the same rights and respect as all sentient life? Or are they machines that are owned by people? Or are they somewhere in the middle? That's a question that a lot of characters have wrestled with, and a lot of characters we kind of wished would wrestle with, but didn't.
Yeah.
Especially during the Clone Wars and stuff like that. And I think it's very significant. First, she has a droid of her own called 49s, 9999,
Yep.
who is very, it's funny how many different genres this is kind of pulling in, because on the one hand, there's nothing more anime than a young child who discovers they have powers and have to join the fight.
Of
If
course.
you see anything where a young kid finds themselves that they're the only one who can pilot the mecha, like Kara and her lightsaber is very much the same thing.
Mhm.
But also, and this is something that a lot of Star Wars has done, and probably a lot of other, like probably a lot of animation has done. But to me, this trend starts with Disney movies. Of every princess has to have a cute little animal that only she can talk to, and that's exactly what the droids are for Kara in ways that I love.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so let's just kind of finish up quickly this first episode and then jump into the third, because you're right, we get into a lot more of her. A lot of the episode is just beautiful animation of, there's a big lightsaber fight, there's some space adventures and stuff. But really where it ends is that we're going to have this group of Jedi who are on the run, with Kara being the main one, but the Mangrave is going to be another one, and then there's a couple others who kind of round out the story, who I think we haven't really had well developed, but I think are really going to be developed in this show. And that's the kind of setup, and they're going to go off and have adventures.
Yeah. Yeah, and the concept was that, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mongrave, is that it?
Yeah. The
He
Margrave, which, by the way,
Margrave. I can't
it
get it
is
right.
a title. It's kind of similar to the English Marquis.
Okay. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Margrave is a Jedi, and he summoned
Yep.
7 other Jedi. So there were 8 of them total, and then they invite Kara to be the Ninth Jedi, hence the name of the episode and
Right.
the name of the upcoming series.
People who are I think the whole question of are they Jedi, do the Jedi exist, is part of the question. But yeah, of
Yeah.
potential Jedi, to be sure. So, all right. So, what happens in the third in this episode in season 3?
Okay, so I believe Kara is being hunted by the Jedi hunters. She's with her Jedi friends.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly how it happens, but she ends up outside the ship, just floating through space.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Teto the droid, does he find her? You know what? You watched it more recently.
Yeah.
Oh God, we're live. Is anyone here?
I don't think it was here. Yeah, I'm gonna give it. I did watch it, but I'm so bad at remembering exact details, so I'm just gonna quickly
Okay, the last time I watched it, I was getting cracked. So
I appreciate your devotion.
don't remember the start.
I'm gonna keep that off air, but I'll tell you later. Um, okay, yeah. So one thing is that one of the main characters who we've established as a main antagonist is kind of one of the leaders of the Sith is a guy named Anda. So he is following the Jedi ship. They fire a laser blast that pierces the hull and blows Kara out into space, but she was kind of in this bubble situation, so she's protected. But basically, she drifts far off, and they have trouble finding her. And so she gets rescued. She gets into this asteroid field, and she gets rescued by Teto, who's this diminutive space droid with large eyes. Again, the cuteness factor is through the roof, and he looks like he's a similar design to, if you've played the Jedi Survivor games, Cal Kestis's main droid. Not the same by any means, but probably like same production facility or something like that, or the same model 1,000 years later.
Yeah.
Or however many years later it is. And he pulls her aboard this abandoned spaceship. And eventually she flees because she's mostly seen droids as potentially, well, that's not true. She flees, she doesn't know what's going on. Teto says, don't worry about it, and convinces her that it's safe. And Teto needs her help because, and here is where the droids are the most loyal puppies you're ever going to find. If you've played Baldur's Gate, spoilers for Baldur's Gate, skip ahead if you haven't, because this is such an important scene. But there's a point at which you come across a dog that is asking you to go and help its master, if you can speak to animals. And you find that the master is dead. And that's exactly what's happened here, is that Teto can't reach his master and is asking Kara for help in reaching his master. And Kara is able to help and realizes that the master has been dead and has been dead for 100 years. And again, kind of a reminder of like the loyalty of droids, but also with their not aging and not, kind of being timeless in that regard. It's just this heartbreaking moment. And I think the first time I watched it, I kept waiting for plot, and eventually the Sith do show up and there's some fight scenes, but that feels like such a small part of the episode,
Mm-hmm.
Most of the episode is just this character beat for Kara of seeing her work with this droid and be compassionate to the droid, even when she realizes that the guy's dead. She doesn't laugh at him. She's not like, it's 100 years. What are you, crazy? She has sympathy and compassion and helps him come to terms with that. And so that, yes, when they attack at the end, Teto ends up being the one to sacrifice himself to save her. And it's very sad. But it feels to me like that's almost irrelevant to the main episode. Most of the episode was just Teto and Kara not dealing with an antagonist, where the only antagonist really is time and grief.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite beautiful. And we get a moment of like Kara, excuse me, doubting herself. And, when they do find the master, she's like, oh my God, like, and I still couldn't even help you. Like, it's too late, I'm never going to be, I don't remember her exact words, but the concept of like, oh, I'll never be a Jedi. I'll never be successful. Da, da, da. And Teto is like, no, you didn't. Like, he's gone, but I asked to see my master again, and he's right there. Like, I can see him.
His Force ghost appears for just a few moments.
No, it wasn't.
No, yeah. It's because he gets to see his body, yeah.
Yeah, so basically it's like the people on this ship were in like a long-term suspended like state, kind of like in Avatar, how they go to sleep for 5 years to travel to Pandora. Except the technology had failed and the master had died. So he was supposed to be suspended, and Teto was supposed to go wake him up, but something had happened that had, I think there was like breakage in the ship and he couldn't physically reach there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's this really touching story. And, I think one thing that Star Wars does really well sometimes is have characters who are kind of naive ask the questions that seem ridiculous until you realize like it's just that we're all ridiculous for not knowing it. Because at one point Teto asks, like, why is there war? And you can see Kara kind of at first being like, all she's ever known is war. And a part of her has trouble understanding, and she kind of gives this answer about how there's all this fear and there's hate in the galaxy, and that she as a Jedi is going to try and deal with that. But it's just this beautiful moment of kind of reminding us that like he's asking, why is the world this way? And it's a way that she's never even thought about because it's all she's ever known.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It makes you wonder what the world was like 100 years ago when Teto originally got stranded.
Right. Excuse me. Yeah, exactly. Like, you kind of wonder, like, how long has it been since the Jedi were here or whatnot? Especially because if Teto's master was also a Jedi, and you're right, it's Teto sees the body and gets to see him that way. We do see the kind of force ghost of the master floating above them as they eat a meal together later, but I don't think either of them noticed that.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I got that either, actually.
Yeah. No, it's kind of a really nice moment there. So the only other thing I want to mention, and you brought it up, but I just want to go a little bit deeper, is this thing about her confidence. Because one of the main things that happens in that first episode is that her father is kidnapped and she can't stop it. And she reveals to Teto that that's one of the reasons why she's carrying all this self-doubt, is because she failed. And Teto has this really beautiful response where he basically says, like, it takes a very strong being to be able to admit their weakness. And just saying that now, it sounds kind of like a cliche, and I get that, but I think there's a lot of truth to that. Of, it kind of in some ways is echoing Yoda's line of The Last Jedi, of that the greatest teacher is failure. That you don't become a great Jedi because you never do anything wrong. You become a great Jedi because you do wrong things, and you don't try and cover it up. You don't try to use bravado. You acknowledge it, accept it, and try to learn from it.
You learn and grow. Yeah.
Right. So I think we don't know much about what the exact show is going to be. We know that it's going to have the same writer, whose name is, I had it just a second ago. Give me 1 second. So we don't really know much about what the show is going to be, and I'm kind of happy about that. We know that it's being written and directed by the same person who did the first episode, Kenji Kamiyama. And one thing also we haven't mentioned, did you watch the episode in English?
Yes.
So, and one I think is actually a really cool thing, and is happening a bit more and more now with things that are kind of collaborations between an anime studio and a Western studio. They got a full cast to do both an English and a Japanese voice recording. And in some cases, they had an actor who could do both languages and recorded both. In others, they got different actors. But there were, the days, I think, of when there's a really good, Japanese language cast and then a very cheap, very bad translation English language dub, we've really moved past that in some cases, not all. I think that if you're able to watch it in the Japanese language with English subtitles, I think that's fantastic. And I would love to hear from people who do that, because I imagine they're going to get a very different perspective than I am. I will say, unfortunately, my ADHD right now is at a point that I cannot keep my eyes on the screen focused enough that I'll be able to catch every word in subtitles.
Yeah.
It's just not where my brain is right now, which is also part of why sometimes when the storytelling is visual, I'll miss parts of it. And that's fair. But I do love that they very consciously tried to have both of those as legitimate options for us, not doing it just in English, not doing it just in Japanese, but giving both sides of that the chance.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. That's important with something like this, because I think it would feel like a loss or feel wrong if it was only in English, being that it's like anime is such a part of Japanese culture and always has been, and it deserves the respect to have it presented in its, original language. But I also appreciate that they have the budget and like are willing to include English speaking actors that are actual, like you said, not just low budget kind of reading the lines, but actually putting effort into the roles. Because let me tell you, I watched Squid Games with the English dub. I understood so little. The emotional beats, I was like, the facial expressions and the tone of voice are not matching. And I did not catch that once throughout any of Visions.
I think live action dubbing especially is harder, because most of the time with the animations, you're not actually making the lips move to the exact words. So it doesn't have that uncanny valley effect. But also, but sometimes they just don't put the money in. And especially with something like Squid Games, where the acting is so much. So I'm really curious. I would say fans, if you're excited about it, or if you're not, either way, like, let us know what you think. Let us know what language you're going to watch it in. We mentioned those two. I know that like a lot of other Disney Star Wars stuff, they're probably going to have subtitles for many, many languages. If you don't speak English too well, I'm doubting that you listen to this podcast, but maybe. I mean, I just said that you don't speak English too well, so clearly I don't speak it very well either. But you know my
Well,
point. Like, and it's my first language, so I don't have the excuse. But yeah, so let us know what you think. You can find us in the show notes. Find all the contact information in the show notes with Matthew at theethicalpanda.com. And I'm giving some of this wrap up, but don't worry. Aaron, I know you have some last things you want to say. I'm just kind of giving it to this so that people know there's more Aarons. You got to stay and listen to this.
Yeah.
I'll remind people that my co-host on Superhero Ethics has written a book. Friday Night is My Monday Morning, Volume 1, Zen and That Man Presents. You can buy that. You can buy some of the books that Pete Wright has bought. All that information is in the show notes. All the information about my other podcasts are in the show notes. All the information about Lady Tano Creates, the awesome cosplay by Nurse Aaron, coming soon to a mental facility near you. So if everyone should go and get like their mental health checked. It's always good. But if you ever feel like maybe you need some extra care, well, Aaron might be your nurse. So good reason.
Might.
Like,
Just might.
You never know. So with all that though, now that I've completely maligned all things about the medical profession, Aaron, what else do you want to say?
I just wanted to throw in Alex's comments because he was not able to come today, but we did ask him to send us just kind of some hopes, thoughts, opinions.
I'm so glad for you, and I apologize to Alex because I literally bullied this kid to do this.
Yes.
Like I asked him to do. Okay, you've asked me. I asked him to do this a couple of times. He hasn't. I was like, Alex, please do this. Please do this. Please do this. He finally did, and I was about to end the recording, having totally forgotten. So I'm an idiot. Alex, go ahead. Alex, speak through Aaron's voice.
Okay. Alex's thoughts. When Visions first came out, The Ninth Jedi was one of my favorite stories, and I'm really excited that they're expanding it. I remember they announced this at Star Wars Celebration last year, and we got a sneak peek at some of the character designs that looked really exciting. I think the premise most closely resembles what could happen in a canonical timeline, and I love that the idea of an old lightsaber builder, in parentheses, probably the last of a lost art, end parentheses, being captured and the mission to find him and bring him home. It feels like a classic hero's journey with opportunities for some juicy twists. I do think that one former Jedi that turned Sith that they spared in the original show may betray them at some point, but that's just a guess. I feel like there's often a traitor arc in anime at some point, parentheses, as a major anime lover, it's a big trope, end parentheses. Anyways, love that anime and Star Wars continue to explore stories together.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is kind of it's a big L for the anime community that Alex wasn't able to be here today because he would have been your strongest advocate among the three of us. But just know he loves it deeply. He's excited for this show, and so are we, but in different ways.
Yes, very much. And I think that's one of the great things is getting to hear about it from all sorts of different perspectives like that. And unfortunately, Alex will not be able to join us for the first episode we do, but we're absolutely going to schedule the second one around his schedule. So it might just be me and Alex. It might just be Aaron and Alex. That idea terrifies me, but I'll give the kids the keys to the car. We'll see what happens. Not a scratch, right? You said not a scratch. Don't knock off the upper antenna of my podcast. But yeah, so I think it's gonna be really exciting to have Alex's perspective. It's funny what he said about the excitement of having the lightsaber, the saber maker. Like I feel like rescuing the father is going to be the main plot and probably what happens in our final episode. But that's going to make me even more excited for season 2 because I hope we get a lot of him. In part because remember what okay. Here's my prediction.
Okay.
Because we started with this idea of a droid who is timeless and lived for 100 years, remembering the old days with his master. What if we find Huang? The David Tennant voiced droid who made lightsabers, or at least helped all the kids make their own lightsabers, who we talked about in the Young Jedi arc, which actually hasn't come out yet. But if you've seen the Young Jedi arc, if you've seen Ahsoka, you've heard us talk about him. Like, what if at some point we find him? Because he might still be around 1,000 years later.
That would be so cool. That would be peak, and that would definitively link it to canon, I'd assume.
Yeah. I don't want to get too excited for that. I've seen situations where people develop headcanon theories and they get disappointed when they don't come up. So I'm not going to pin my hopes on it, but if it happens, I'll be pretty damn proud and be like, hey, I called that. Thank you.
Like I predicted.
If someone sees David Tennant in a credit that you don't understand why it showed up, let us know. All right. Any other last things, quotes, comments you want to make?
No, I just have my closing quote.
All right. Well, in that case, thank you all so much for listening. Please write in. Please let us know what you think. Please tell people to get ready for our episode, that when they watch The Ninth Jedi and they want to hear some great discussion about it, come on over to the Star Wars Generations podcast. With that, live long and prosper.
Help us restore peace to the galaxy and take your place as the Ninth Jedi so we can reestablish the Jedi Order.
Oh, fuck. I can't. What's the line from Battlestar Galactica? Their version of Amen.
Not seen.
So say we all.
So say we all.